Isaiah has in mind here the image of young military fighting men, the people who are in the best shape of their life, people who can run a marathon. By the way, speaking of marathons, I have some friends who run them. It's marathon season, if you didn't know. Actually, Johnny Graves, our youth director, is running the New York Marathon right now, and Tim actually managed to pull up where he is. Where's Johnny? Right here. All right. Oh, going through Harlem. Let's pray for Johnny right now. There we go. What's the pace? He's still doing 7-minute mile. That is impressive, I got to tell you.
Good morning, Vietnam. Just kidding. Welcome to Behind the Pulpit. As you can see, Pastor Dave is not here today. He's still home recovering from an illness that he's having. So it's just a two-person crew. Noah's on vacation. Pastor Dave is sick. So it is just Pastor Bob Erbig and myself today. Pastor Bob, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I just got done with our interview with Johnny Graves, which we're going to insert somewhere along this way. So it was like I was running a marathon very quickly, asking him questions. But I'm doing well. The fall is in play. I'm enjoying
peaking.
The fall.
We're nearing the end of peak. Still some really great colors out there.
We're on the downside of peak, and very soon the leaves are going to be falling off. So I was actually walking home for lunch, and I had a couple leaves smack me in the face.
Really?
Telling me winter's coming.
Wow, winter is coming. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's starting to get a little nippy. I kind of wish it was colder. I mean, yesterday was great. I think we got up and it was like, I looked at the temperature. It was 37 degrees when I came into church yesterday. We're
starting to get in that season after the that mixture of fall and summer.
Yes.
So you begin at the beginning of the day with the fall, and you end the day with the summer. And so you're always like shedding.
It's New Jersey.
Shedding your layers, but now it's staying consistent.
Now, prediction wise, what do you think this year's winter is going to be like? Because I personally, I want it cold. I want to play pond hockey. I want the lakes to be frozen. I don't care about the snow. I just need it to be cold. Do you think last year was like on and off? We had like some warmer winter days. We had some colder winter days, but it never was consistent. What do you think we're going to get this year?
I'm going to go with more inconsistency. So
just
I remember
New Jersey
the
winter.
first year that I moved here when I began working at Millington was 2011, and that was a brutal winter. I moved from San Jose, California over here, and it was just snow after snow after. It was buried in snow for 4 months. But lately it's been inconsistent.
Yeah,
so
it's New Jersey.
I'm not hopeful.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's global warming. Maybe it's something else. But the winters in New Jersey definitely look different now than they did when I was a kid. So well, we can always hope. We can always hope.
We can pray. We can pray to that.
We can pray.
We were learning about prayer last week with Pastor Dave.
Yes, Let's pray. Let's pray for winter. Amen. Well, as we get kicked off in our show today, we have a couple things that we want to announce. The first is going to be our Millington Baptist Church Work Day. Let's see if I can get this up here. Awesome. So on November 15th, we are going to be having a work day, I believe sponsored by the men's ministry. It's going to be an indoor-outdoor day where you can just come. If you're not with us serving on City Relief, we would encourage you to come on out from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm hearing food is provided. We're going to do some planting. We're going to do some yard work. We're going to do some work on the inside and outside, just overall campus beautification. So check out our website if you are interested in doing that.
Now, what's going on with this graphic here, Tim?
I don't know.
Did you make this or Noah make
that? That
this?
is a Noah graphic. What are your questions?
So is the brick supposed to be inside and the vine on the wood supposed to be outside?
Do we have any indoor? Do we have any indoor brick here?
Well, I mean, the whole fellowship hall has brick that's painted. We don't have any brick that looks like a chimney like that. So maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here.
My grandmother at her house has some exposed.
Although that font
brick
does
on the
look
inside.
very workday.
Yes, it makes me want to grab a shovel and dig. Absolutely.
It makes me want to pull that vine off of the fence right there.
Well, that brings us to our first segment of the day, where we'll be talking about what's going on in the world around us. It is In the News. All right, so let's kick off with something fun before we dive into some of the more serious stuff that we have planned for you guys here today. The Los Angeles Dodgers are your 2025 World Series champions. Man, it came down to the wire, 7 games, and the Blue Jays had the lead going in with 1 out in the ninth inning, and then a solo home run, and then another solo home run in the 11th, and that was it. And the Dodgers are now your champions. Pastor Bob, did you consume the World Series?
So let's talk about the World Series here, Tim.
Yes.
I literally heard Alex Rodriguez say that this was the best World Series he's ever seen.
Wow. And he's been in one.
And he's been in several,
yes.
I think. It was, I didn't watch the first 6 games, but I heard there were some nail-biters there. And because I like Don Mattingly, I said, we're going to sign up for Fox 1 so we can watch the game. And I did watch all of Game 7 all the way to the end.
Wow.
And I thought the Blue Jays were going to have it. And did you see the ninth inning, the Blue Jays closer blows it, that Rojas, I think it was Rojas, hit the home run, tied the game, and then in the bottom of the ninth, it was bases loaded. And I forget who hit the ground ball.
Oh, no, not the ground ball.
The ground ball to second base. Rojas, the second baseman, catches it, stumbles backward, throws, and I thought the game was over. It was a close call. It's still debatable in my mind. But
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, the player who was on third base, was a Yankee at one point, and he was kind of known for his speed. Like, he was one of the Yankee speeder players. And
they put him in as a pinch runner.
They put him in as a pinch runner. So I thought the game was over. I didn't see any angles, but I feel like he could have got a better jump. I don't know. I feel like he could have beaten that out, especially with the stumble. I feel like there's definitely a lot of players in this league that would have beat that out. But, it's a high-pressure situation. It's the World Series. You're kind of like, what do I do?
Well, the angles were close. It was questionable.
It was
they had to go and
so I thought
it.
he was out. And then you look again, I'm like, oh, his foot might have come off the base. And it did, but I think it got back down. I think the call was right. I think he got the...
it was close. It was close. But anyway, they blew it a couple times, and it was a great series, though. It was a great series. Don Mattingly still does not have a ring, so
there's still time.
We can still hope.
He looks younger every year.
He does look pretty good I think he's 64 now. He looks like he can get out there and hit the ball again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, did you watch the World Series? I know for me, I am tuned out of baseball. It's hockey season. I'm watching hockey. I'm watching random games that I have no business watching. But the World Series is on. It's Game 7. I feel like I should be watching this.
So where does your love for hockey come from?
So
you just want to consume that all the time.
Yeah, it's funny. So I was never really introduced to hockey in my household. My family was not a hockey family. Okay. It was a baseball first, Yankees first, and then Giants, Jets, and that was kind of the sports that we watched. And then I was like, oh, there's a sports team that plays in New Jersey. Like, I should be paying closer attention to them as someone who likes sports. And I really started to get into them. And then I just grew to love the game. Like, my high school, I went to Ridge High School here in Basking Ridge, and they always have a pretty good hockey team. So I started going to their games and just kind of fell in love with the sport.
Did you ever play hockey?
No, I play a little pond hockey here and there. Started last couple of years. Got some skates. I play with my brother-in-law. He lives up in Sussex County in a lake community, so he shovels out a rink. But I just fell in love with the sport. I think it's awesome. It's my favorite sport to watch, and I have a bunch of friends who we watch it together. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Have you ever
seen that Seinfeld episode where Putty dresses up with the face painting and they go to the Devils game?
Yes.
And he's just, yeah!
It comes out.
Yelling at Messier.
Yeah, it always... if you've ever been to a Devils game before, that clip gets played at like 95% of the games.
Dude, does it really?
Yeah, it always a Devils. And that actor, I forget his name. He's done like most NHL teams have like a hype video that they'll play before every game, and he voiced
support the team.
Yeah, support the team. Yeah, he voiced it last year. The Devils, you're not ready. It's always good. Moving on to our next story here. We've talked about it a couple times on the show, more of a serious topic. We are still seeing some Christian persecution in the nation of Nigeria. This has been going on for a little bit, and recently President Trump actually made a comment. He made a tweet about it. It was a classic Trumpian tweet. Pastor Bob, I know, has been paying attention to this, and just want to give you the floor.
Well, this is what's
comment.
happened if you haven't been following on X, which I go and see people post. There was a lot of people lobbying for the U.S. to take notice, for President Trump to take notice. There's been a number of videos of Nigerian pastors standing over the graves of people who have been killed and calling for help for what's going on. So I saw more chatter about this online, and over the weekend, some politicians were commenting on this. Ted Cruz, I think a few others, and Donald Trump finally did make a couple tweets about this. Now, the latest one is the one that was the strongest comment, which is, I'm sure is a little controversial depending on what you think about the government. But this was the tweet from Trump. He said, "If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing. To completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attacked our cherished Christians. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast." Now, I'm sure this is a debatable topic here, but I think we can all agree that the killing of Christians, the persecution and genocide that's been happening over there is dramatically terrible and disgusting. I think it's been 130,000 Christians who've been systematically killed since around 2010, 2009. And the biblical issue here is that the reason God puts government in place is, if you look at Romans 13 and Genesis 9, which are the key texts, is the main purpose of the government is to restrain evil. And so it does not appear that the Nigerian government has been doing that. Now, the prime minister or the president of Nigeria issued a statement, said they're doing that, but there's all this other videos and people shouting about this saying they're not. So is it right for the U.S. to go in? They said they want to offer assistance, but is it right for them to cross somebody else's border to stop such atrocities from happening? I don't know that this is such a bad thing. Now, that's probably a debatable thing, depending on if you think it's okay for them to invade a sovereign country. Not invade, but come in and help with a specific issue. But it's something we definitely need to pray about. It's something we need to give some serious thought to. And this needs to end, is sort of the bottom line here. What's your thoughts on this, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. And I think I'm always just like, as someone who is a Gen Z person, and I think overall us as Gen Z are pretty well connected to what's going on in the world. You know, we always have our phones and in our left hands or right hands. You know, you really have not heard that much about this. Like, I feel like in mainstream,
no, and there's other countries too. I mean, I've been seeing people comment on what's going on in Sudan as well. Yeah,
there's, you know, I feel like this should be something, if this has been happening for so long, and it's just like over 130,000 people have been killed. That's a huge news story. And I feel like that has not been something that, like, we hear, you know, I'm not downplaying at whatsoever, you know, the loss of life that we've been seeing in the Middle East between Gaza and Israel, and then, you know, the Ukraine and Russia have been the two kind of headlining stories over the past couple years. You hear about that every day, all the time. There's people in the streets. It's talked about on the news every day. And yet there's a whole other story developing that's been around for a while in Africa about, you know, these killings and this genocide of a people group, and there's not much to be heard about it.
Specifically killed for being Christians, from the Fulani terrorists, the Islamic folks that are going in and doing this just for the fact that these folks are Christians. There was a video I saw the other day about just this group coming in and just all of a sudden shooting up a whole village and causing them to leave. Now, I guess the thing I would say is that, you know, let's think about other genocides like with the Jewish folks in Germany, or the Armenian genocide over in Turkey, and I'm sure there's others. Is it wrong for a country to come and intervene to help stop that because the government of that country is not basically doing its job, or it's corrupt at some level? So I like to see this end, and I'm glad that our government is paying attention to it and is putting pressure, at least on the Nigerian government. In a previous statement, I think Trump said that they're going to withdraw aid if the government of Nigeria does not do something about this. So we're going to see how this plays out, but I'm glad the pressure is being put on Nigeria to actually provide some protection for its citizens.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think you're 100% right. Like, I think, you know, there's things that happen personally, I think there's things that countries do within the confines of their own country. I think from country to country, it's really none of our business. But when it comes to like looking at this through a Christian worldview, and we talk about the sanctity of human life when it comes to a lot when it comes to abortion. On that topic, but this is the life of Christians, but also just like other image bearers. This should be something that we're talking about. Should be something we'd be advocating for. So I think I would agree. Like if push comes to shove, I think something should be done to save lives here, as for any other situation, for any other genocide that happens as well.
So pray for the persecuted church and pray for our brothers and sisters in Nigeria.
Yes. One last. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I was going to mention about the voting.
Yes, I was going to tee that up.
You go ahead and do that then.
It is election week here in New Jersey and around the nation, and I think a stance that we take here at Millington Baptist Church is that you should go out and vote. We think it's important that you do your civic duty to get to the polls and vote for a candidate of your choosing. We think that's important, and I know Pastor Bob likes to talk about that. So what would you say to people who in Millington Baptist Church who are thinking about going or not going out to vote this week?
Well, I would say this particular election, your vote is going to matter. In other elections, when there's might be a foregone conclusion about how the state is going to go, you might feel like what's the point. But this one, it's been a hotly contested governor election. All eyes are on New Jersey tomorrow, and I would just say don't stay home. Go and vote. This is a place that we live, we care about, and we should be very much civically engaged. So I would encourage you to go vote and make a plan to vote. And the polls close tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So go out and do it.
Yeah, I know, like you mentioned this just now, I feel like in the past, it's always been just, for me, I'm able to vote relatively recently in my life, but I feel like when it comes to New Jersey, sometimes there's this stigma of like, what's the point? Like, we know which way it's going to go. That's not the case this time. I feel like it's becoming over the last couple elections, it's becoming a little bit closer, and the polls look really close. The
governor election is definitely down to the wire. Aside from the fact that, I was talking with Scott Lavender, who's on the township committee for Long Hill over here. And he was saying what really makes a difference in your life is like the local elections. So here in Berners Township, our township committee, there's a couple open seats. Board of Education, I got a little more educated on the Board of Education candidates. So I don't normally vote for the Board of Education candidates, but this time I said, you know what, I'm going to go look up statements, and I made a decision after having done some research on it. So vote all the people.
It's a good example of well-informed voting.
There you go.
Great. That's the news. So we hope you enjoyed that. And as we move on to the next portion of our show, wanted to give another little shout out. We talked about this a bit last week, but it's in full swing. The new iteration of the Fresh Wave. We got a little bit of a new rebrand there, a little bit of a graphic refresh, new color scheme. But yeah, our new form of the Fresh Wave is going to be taking, it looks like this. It's going to be week to week switching off between Johnny and our other host, Maddie. 1 to 2 minute quick little teachings and commentaries for teens. So if you're a parent of a teenager, this is something really easy. It's on Instagram, it's on YouTube. They can see it. The last episode was 1 minute and 22 seconds, I believe. And this is a really great tool that we're building to just share with people. It's an evangelism tool. It's on Instagram. Our students and your kids, and even you can do a really quick, just send it to somebody. It's a quick watch. We're staying away from the longer form podcasts as our youth's attention spans get shorter and shorter. I think we need to meet those demands. So yeah, check out the new Fresh Wave. It's a pretty cool format. It's a little more produced than it has been in the past. So it's a good looking show. So check it out.
Where's Maddie looking in that image right there? Looking off to the side. Looks like she's holding the microphone kind of like this.
She is, yes. And also, if you notice, it's a new microphone style too. We got a little mic stand instead of using these bad boys for these. So,
all right,
yeah. So check it out. So it is time to move into our favorite segment. Now I always love people. We had Andrew Strain on last week, and the last thing he said before he left, this wasn't in the recording, is I love the book war. I love getting people who come up to me and asking about the book war. When I messed up with the voting thing a couple weeks ago, I had people letting me know about it. So people,
it's the water cooler talk around there.
People love the great book war. Yeah. It's a heated battle. I see you have a book.
All 13 of them that vote. Love the book before.
Yes, and listen, it's a tight race. It's a lot of the same people voting each week. They want that Behind the Pulpit merch. They want to be known as the fan of the year. So keep it up. And listen, if you haven't started voting, it's not too late. People might miss a few weeks. We might have some prizes for like the top 10.
I got to see who won last week.
Or something. Oh, yeah, we are getting there. So here we go. Let me just pull that up. I'm not as quick as I was. And the winner from last week is Pastor Dave. So I know Pastor Dave will be watching at some point later today, probably. Congratulations on the reliability of the Old Testament by K.A. Kitchen. And if we go in and look at the breakdown, 10 responses. So 8 votes for Pastor Dave.
All right, so
2
I made a wrong choice in what I should
Pastor
recommend.
Bob.
I should have gone with the other book.
Yes. And that is okay. The score now is 2-5. There is plenty of time left. It's only a 3-point game. Next week, since we're not having a competition this week, we're going to have Pastor Bob recommend a book, but it will not be voted upon. Next week will be a 2-point week. So, Pastor Bob, you have a chance to cut it to 1 point.
What about this? What if I recommend 2 books and then they decide between the 2? Either way, I win.
Somehow you'll lose, I feel like.
But also somehow I'll win.
You will win. So go make sure you got a week off from voting. So enjoy the week off for those of you who vote. But
you're not going to recommend a book?
I don't have one on me, but I could recommend a book. Maybe I'll recommend one of the Colson books. But we'll just do. I think we'll just.
You pray about it while I recommend the book that I brought with me. So here, this book is written by a woman named Elizabeth Urbanowitz. She runs an organization called Foundation Worldview. I've purchased a few of her video series that I've used with my kids on teaching them how to develop a Christian worldview and related topics. So she came out with a book recently called Helping Your Kids Know God's Good Design. Helping your kids know God's good design. So if you're a parent, if you know somebody who's a parent, especially they have younger kids. If you're a grandparent, you want to recommend this. This curriculum is really, really good. So the subtitle here is 40 Questions and Answers on Sexuality and Gender. And what she does is she has all these different questions that your kids might ask or might come up, and you're wondering, like, what do I do? What do I say? Here is a resource guide for you from an educational professional who also has a degree in apologetics and has been developing this worldview curriculum for Christian parents, educators, church leaders, and all the above. So I definitely recommend picking this up, reading it through. There's another book by Andrew Walker that has a similar slant to it. I just feel like there's so many good resources out there now on topics like this to equip you as a parent, somebody who's training up the next generation, that you should very much take advantage of it. So Elizabeth Urbanowitz, Helping Your Kids Know God's Good Design, and look at the artwork right here. It's got like little, Legos on the front, little shapes and everything. And you can help shape and spiritually form your kids. So right here.
All right. Well, make sure you go pick up that book. And I did pray about it, Pastor Bob, and I am going to recommend a book.
All right.
I don't have it with me, but I am part of the Colson Fellows program here at Millington. I do have some catch-up work I need to do this month. I'm a little behind, but one of the books we read for our last cycle, it's not a Christian book, but I think it really was a fascinating read. And it's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. We talked about it at our last cohort. And Viktor Frankl, it's a firsthand account of a man who was spent time in a Nazi concentration camp and as a professional psychologist. And he it's essentially a large part of the book is a memoir of his experience in the concentration camp and what he noticed about mental health and just the mental processing of different inmates and how they handle tragedy and suffering. It's a very sad book, but as someone who has studied psychology and just enjoys thinking about the mind, I thought it was a fascinating read. So if you're looking for something, a little bit heavier in terms of emotion, trying to switch up your reading list a little bit, pick that up. It's really interesting, and it's kind of cool how you can kind of see from the beginning to the end as the suffering continues, how he kind of touches on biblical principles without really realizing he's doing it when it comes to suffering. So that would be my book recommendation. Maybe we'll put it to a vote this week. We'll see.
All right, Man's Search for Meaning or God's Good Design.
Go vote.
Let's see what comes up.
You decide. We recommend. All right.
So a little inversion of that. We decide, you recommend.
We decide, you recommend.
Or you decide, we recommend.
Something like that. All right. So we are going to move into the next portion of our show, we did have an audience question. Thank you so much for asking your questions. I'm going to start putting the link down in the show notes as well. We encourage you guys, if you have any questions,
man,
especially about the sermons, but anything else, we would really encourage you. You don't have to say your name. This question today is anonymous, so we're going to go through that, and Pastor Bob, we'll have you tackle it for us. Today's question is this: why did Hezekiah show the king of Babylon all his riches in Judah?
Oh, well, what a wonderful question. It's a good question. I think, and thank you for asking it. We're always happy when we get those. Hezekiah is an interesting figure. So we heard from Pastor Dave last week about his faith and how he came before the Lord and how he laid out all his papers before him, and God delivered Hezekiah and the people of Judah from Assyria. But then we also see that Hezekiah is human. He's a complicated figure, and when you look at chapter 39, you wonder, is this the same Hezekiah? So the motivations and reasoning, I think there's a couple explanations, a couple, I guess to some extent speculations as to why he's doing this, but I think they line up with the text. So the first reason, I would call it pride, right? So Hezekiah has been blessed, and he's got all these riches from what God has brought into his realm, and he basically wants to show off his success and his wealth. In fact, in 2 Chronicles 33, 25, and 26, which is a passage that speaks about this background, it reads that Hezekiah's heart was proud, and he did not respond to the kindness shown him. So we knew that there's some kind of spiritual pride going on here, and it did wind up costing Judah dearly, even though it seems like Hezekiah learned his lesson afterwards. Secondly, politics were definitely involved. There's always politics everywhere, right? So historically, Babylon wanted to build these alliances with surrounding nations to help them in their fight against Assyria, because Assyria was the dominant power, but Babylon eventually would take over from them, followed by the Medo-Persian Empire. And Hezekiah, having been delivered from the Assyrian siege, or about to be delivered from that, might have seen Babylon as a potential ally. And so this makes a lot of sense to me, this reasoning that he was showing off his riches and what he could offer this political alliance with Babylon. So it was a bit of a diplomatic move. And then finally, just from a spiritual perspective, it was a failure of spiritual discernment. So Hezekiah's response to Isaiah's prophecy in chapter 39, verse 8 was, he said, the word of the Lord you have spoken is good. And I always found that to be such a strange response after Isaiah basically says, you're going to get wiped out, all of your people are going to get carried off to Babylon, your sons are going to be eunuchs, which means they're going to, be kind of half the man they used to be. And his response is, well, that's good. Which just reveals a very short-sighted, self-centered attitude when you hear about what's going to be going on, because things are going to be okay for you, there's going to be peace and security, but your descendants are going to have to deal with your mistake. So I think those are a couple major reasons why Hezekiah opened up his vault. To me, I think the political motivation makes a whole lot of sense, but I think there's a little bit of the other two sprinkled in.
Great. I think that answered it well. So yeah, keep the questions coming, and we have two today, just one, but two very intelligent pastors who are willing and able to answer your questions. So keep them coming. All right. So now, Pastor Bob alluded to it before, but if you listened to the sermon yesterday, you will know that Pastor Bob talked about marathons, and in that marathon illustration, we actually got a chance to kind of watch our very own Johnny Graves run a bit of his marathon as a small dot on a map. And we actually got to sit down with Johnny and hear a little bit about his marathon experience. But before we do that, we just want to tell you guys about something else that we have going on in our ministry. And that is, keep doing that, and that is our Shepherd's Freezer. This is a really cool ministry that we have here at Millington, where we have a freezer in our kitchen that we fill with meals that we can just give to people who are in need. So if you feel that this is on your heart, that you are interested in contributing to this, there's a QR code on the screen. You can find more information about that on our website. But essentially what you want to do is you want to just buy a frozen meal or make one yourself. And you can bring it here and put it in the freezer, and it will just add to the database of meals that we have that we can give out for free to those people who in our church who are in need and might need a meal for any reason, maybe a medical condition, maybe just busy time, taking care of family members, new baby, anything like that. We love to bless people with those meals. So check out more information on that.
By the way, I'm feeling led to comment on every single one of these graphics. Put that back up there. So
Okay.
look, we got the shepherd's freezer, which is kind of wonderfully placed in this doily in the
Yes.
middle of the thing. Treats for a cause. I just noticed all the way around there's all these treats.
They're all carb-based.
It is. I see
Pretzels, breads, cupcakes.
a French cruller, a croissant, a pretzel, a couple muffins right there. I never noticed that before.
It's quite
couple
a-
donuts.
It's quite
Yeah.
a beautiful graphic.
Yeah. Although usually when you go to the shepherd's freezer, those aren't the things that you get. So
No, you're a
they're
good
more
hearty
substantial
lasagna.
things. Yes. Lasagna's a
you're more
favorite.
likely to get than some donuts, which I think I would argue is better. Yes, as I said before, please enjoy this interview that we did with Johnny Graves to tell us a little bit about his marathon experience.
All right, so we're here with Johnny Graves, who just completed his is it second marathon
Second.
yesterday? Second? Wow.
Second.
And you told me today you came in and you said, I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling all right.
So-
Yeah, I'm walking
so-
stairs, sitting down, standing up.
My goodness. Well, I was making a jab because I'm not a runner. You're a runner. We were talking about it in the sermon yesterday, and we were watching you. Tim was able to put up the actual tracker. We saw you beginning in the 9 and finish close to finishing the second service. There it was, right there. He's up there. That's Johnny. People were loving it though. They were cheering you on like, yeah, go. Actually, the second service you were in Harlem.
Okay,
I think so.
yeah.
Is that where you come in the top of Central Park and finish in the middle of Central Park?
Yeah, you kind of do like this little like U run kind of around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. So anyway, so we were talking about marathons. So why don't we talk a little bit about how did you get in? Why did you want to do this? Why did you want to run?
Yeah.
For 26 miles.
For that long. Yeah, I got it and thought about it a couple of years ago. I did my first one in Philly, and that one was a hard experience. I didn't really train for it. Signed up pretty
You didn't
close
train
to
at all?
Not really. I mean, I ran, but I didn't really do any like marathon training. And it was just horrible. Like I felt horrible halfway through the race. I was like, my goal was just to like not die and fall over. And then after the race, Tim was there. Tim and some other people were there, and I was just like white as a ghost. Didn't talk to anybody. Was in horrible shape. And then after I finished my first
Well,
marathon.
can we just pause and just say the fact that without having done any training, the fact that you could still finish it is pretty impressive.
Yeah. But after I finished that marathon, I was like, this is the stupidest thing in the entire world. I was like, why do people do this? People like fly around the world to do it in Tokyo and London. I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I'm never doing it again. And then like a week later, I started to feel better. And I was like, all right, eventually I want to do it again. I want to train. I want to, get a good time. So like a year or two goes by. I got into the New York City Marathon on behalf of a charity, Rise Against Hunger, who I ran for, who we've actually worked with as a church, packing meals for them. And I was able to run for them, fundraise for them, and got into this one. So it was an awesome experience. And yeah, just really wanted to do something new, having a cool accomplishment to do. And it's obviously good to stay healthy and run. So
There you go.
there were positive benefits.
Before we talk about the actual experience of running the marathon, so I was mentioning this in the sermon yesterday. So tell me the process of getting into the marathon. It wasn't you. My friend Jason is also a marathon runner, and he was telling me about all the hoops you have to jump through to actually get
to get accepted.
To get accepted into the race.
Right.
It's like applying for college, I guess.
Right. So every marathon has different ways you can do it. So for example, the Boston Marathon is considered one of the most like elite ones. And you can really only get into that one if you have ran a marathon before in a certain time. So like for my age and gender, you have to run under 3 hours, which is pretty fast. And then for female, I think it's like 3 hours and 30 minutes. And then depending on your age, it's slower, faster. But for other marathons, for example, like New York, I think Chicago might be similarly. There's just a general lottery. So there's just a whole pool. They just pick at random whoever gets in. And apparently, to the statistics, it's harder to get into the New York City Marathon than to get into like Harvard and Yale. Like it's like a
Wow.
The percent is like I don't know.
This is really
it's
like
close to
the
this, but it's like a 2-3% that you might actually get it.
Acceptance rate. Wow.
Acceptance rate. Yeah, it's very, very low. It might not be exactly that. So last year I tried that, didn't get in, obviously. And then for this year, the other way you can do it is there's one where you can qualify for this one. So if you do like a New York run earlier this year, there's like a half marathon you can do. If you like New York Road Runners, if you do like a half marathon at a certain time, you would get your bib or your ticket into it. If you've ran, actually I just found out because a guy I went with, if you've ran 15 New York marathons, every year after that you're automatically in, which is kind of crazy. So if you've ran 15 marathons, you're automatically in no matter what.
Wow.
And then the way I did it was I did a charity. So I applied to run on behalf of a charity. They accepted me. I just had to fundraise for them. So that's how a lot of people get into this one as well, is they find a charity, they apply, they select you, and then you run on behalf of their organization.
Harder
So
to
it's
get
a lot.
into than Yale or Harvard. So
Yeah.
you really have to want to do this. Huh?
You really got to, yeah.
Good. Well, what was your training regimen getting ready for the marathon? What did you do differently this time than last time? And did it improve your running time?
Oh yeah. Well, I did a lot more than last time.
Clearly.
Yeah. So I had my sister-in-law's ran a lot of marathons. She's a 6 medalist one, so she's done all the majors. She's very good, very fast.
Boston?
Yep.
Wow.
She qualified, did Boston, did Tokyo, London, Berlin, all those. She sent me a plan that I think she's enjoyed. And yeah, it's a 16-week plan, 6 days a week. So I started mid-July, finished up the day before the marathon. And yeah, I felt pretty good the whole race. Like I never really was super out of breath, didn't feel like super exhausted. I mean, like the last mile, obviously, you're pushing
like,
everything you got.
Almost there.
But yeah, majority of the race felt really good, felt strong. I was able to see a lot of fans during the race, so that was cool. I got able to be alert and see them and high five them and stuff like that. So it was much more enjoyable, felt good. I didn't crash. A lot of times during marathons, people they call it the wall, where you're feeling good, and then mile 15, mile 20, you just like, your body just like shuts down and is like, you need to stop.
Okay.
So you see some of those people, they're walking or they're hunched over or holding a leg or whatever. So yeah, with the training, I felt pretty good, felt strong, ran consistent kind of.
So how far did you run the day before the marathon?
So the day before, you just do like a really slow 3 miles, just like mental shake, body loose, just kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, the week or two before a marathon, you really don't run that much. You just kind of, they call it like the taper week.
Okay.
So you run a lot of miles, and then like you start to kind of slow down, so your body's in like prime condition. It's very rested. It's not injured. You're ready to roll.
Gotcha. So do you ever actually in the training process get up to doing 26 miles before?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So usually a max is like 20 or 22 miles is what you'll do like 3-4 weeks before. That's kind of your max run.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this is intense. All right. Well, take us into the actual running of it. Speaking of the last mile, I did watch your little dot up in the balcony, and it was do half a mile, and then Johnny's done.
Oh my gosh.
And then 3 hours and 13 minutes, which I thought was pretty fast, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So where did you start, and what did you see? What was the experience? Tim had some pictures he wanted to put up here.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. Look at you with the medal at the end. You got the medal.
Yeah, pure gold. So you started
had your feast on the mountain with the New York pizza. Is that afterwards?
Oh, it was after. It was delicious. It was great. So hungry, so tired. Yeah, so you start at the Verrazano Bridge. You start in Staten Island, and you travel through the 5 boroughs, which was really cool. So yeah, you go over the Verrazano Bridge, which is just huge. I think it's like a mile and a half, maybe.
Up?
Yeah, you go up and then you go
Wow.
down. So the up part's hard, but then when you get down, but the hardest part is actually just how crowded it was. So when you're that first Verrazano Bridge is just like
you're
almost
trying
shoulder to shoulder.
Trying to run faster, and you're like, come on, move.
Right. So you're almost like kind of weaving around. But yeah, you're shoulder to shoulder. It's tight.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's like a very famous, well-known race. It's a famous bridge. Everybody knows about it. The view's awesome. You're going over the water. You see the city that you're going to be running into. So that was a great first part. And then, you run through the 5 boroughs. I don't remember in the exact order, but, you go through Queens, you go through Brooklyn, you go through Manhattan, you go through the Bronx, you go through, obviously, start in Staten Island. Those might be all 5, actually. So you go through all the bridges to get, each time I think each time you go over a bridge is when you entered a new borough, and the bridges are really hard because the bridges obviously go up and they go down. So the Verrazano was really hard. The hardest bridge was the Queensboro Bridge for me, because that's at like mile 16. So like you're already kind of getting kind of tired, and then you have this just straight steep uphill bridge.
Wow.
And the Queensboro Bridge isn't that nice compared to the Verrazano. You don't have a nice view. You're just kind of like sheltered in. And yeah, I mean, what was pretty crazy was just the atmosphere. I mean, it was literally 26.2 miles of fans along the entire race, screaming.
Are they cheering you the whole way?
Yeah, cheering you.
Imagine they're shouting for 5 hours.
They're shouting for 5 hours. There's music like every often. There's people handing out. Smoothie King gave me a water. I was running. Smoothie King had a box there, handing out water, so I grabbed one. Everyone else is handing out snacks and waters and drinks. So it was pretty cool experience. Lots of fun, and alive to tell the tale.
You are? Wow, that's impressive. Well, the application that I used in the sermon about the marathon illustration was we were talking about Isaiah 40:31 and the idea that those who wait and trust on the Lord will rise up on wings like eagles. They'll run and not be weary. They'll walk and not faint. So I think the application for the marathon is the fact that you need kind of this strength to get you through and not fall down. But imagine you go through a whole marathon, and yet at the end you can just keep going.
Yeah.
Like the image of the eagle, which I said they have this natural renewal process over the course of their life. They shed their feathers and get new ones. That there's just natural renewal, so they never are in a season where they can't fly, which I guess is different than other birds.
Interesting. Yeah.
But sometimes in your life, like you just go through a season where you're just so tired and weary, you just can't go on. Like you hit the 16,
you hit the wall.
You hit the wall, and like that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did you learn anything? Was the Lord speaking to you in the midst of the marathon? I guess.
You know, what's funny is obviously like a lot when people run, a lot of people listen to music, and during my training, I listened to a lot of music. Listen to podcasts, Colson Fellow stuff, whatever it was, just when you're out running for a few hours. But sometimes I would run with nothing, just wouldn't listen to anything. And for this marathon, I was probably going to listen to music. And just before the race, just lots of people. This is an incredible race. The atmosphere, the energy, everyone's there. And a lot of people around me weren't listening to music. So I was like, you know what? There's going to be a ton of people. Crowds are going to be loud. I also, had a lot of family and friends that I was going to hopefully see during the race. I was like, if I have my music on, it might be hard to hear them or see them. And I just want to like kind of take in the crowd. So I didn't listen to any music. And Shannon, my wife, asked me yesterday, she was like, so what did you think about for like 3 hours? And I was like, I literally didn't think about anything. You're just like constantly looking at like your watch, seeing how fast you're running. All right, I have one more mile. Like all you're thinking about is just like literally you running for like 3. Like your mind, if you want like a mind numbing thing to do, go run for 3 hours. It'll just there's really like no, you almost can't physically think about anything. Like if you went for a really like slow, easy run, you could like think about life, think about something that happened yesterday or today. But during the marathon race, my mind was just. There was no thinking.
Singularly focused
all you're thinking about is,
end.
all right, I can hold this pace. I'm going to get water next break. I got to take a gel, or all right, this is, whatever. Like, it was very interesting. I've never really experienced that where your mind just kind of is like, wow. This is it.
So you were able to keep the same pace the whole time.
Yeah,
wow.
which was a goal of mine to like kind of have a consistent run. Because sometimes, in races you'll have a really slow couple miles, fast couple miles, or whatever. So I wanted a nice consistent run, which I was excited to get.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks for telling us about the experience.
Yeah.
How, if anybody was looking to run a marathon, what advice would you give them?
You just take it mile by mile, just get out, start running. And it's if it's a training, you just got to train for it. If you took 16 weeks to just kind of slowly build yourself up, I think most people can do it. I mean, you see the people finishing. Some people are in their 80s, like finishing.
Wow.
So it's not all about, what's cool about running is it's not really all about time in a sense of, well, is that good or did you beat anyone? Track has always been about like PR for a lot of people. So like, what's your personal record? What's your personal best? So just do what you're capable of doing. Stay consistent. I think that was a big thing, is just staying consistent and during your training process and everything. So yeah, it just starts with mile run. Like when you start the race, you can't think, I have 26 to go. It's just get that first mile in, get the next one in. So Cool experience. Thanks for the shout out. What was funny was, before we end here, what was funny was you texted me and Tim. You were like, oh, congrats. Great job. We tracked you during the sermon. And in my mind, I literally was thinking, oh, maybe like Dave was preaching and Bob was just sitting in the pew looking me up, seeing how I did. And then I get the video and the picture of Bob pointed. Yeah, you have the picture back up.
There it is.
I'm like,
There
oh,
it
you
is.
actually quite literally tracked me during the live sermon. With
That was,
everyone
was
listening.
Tim's idea. It was Tim's idea. But the people
Tim.
loved it.
Tim. That was very
We were
funny.
at the,
I did not know that's what you meant.
We were at the run through, and Pastor Bob had the marathon bit in his sermon, and after we're done, Pastor Dave goes, Johnny is going to be running the marathon while you're preaching. You probably should mention him. And I was like, actually, I think we could probably pull up a tracker.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sure that exists. And so yeah, it was very easy.
How do they track you? Do you have like a
the bib has
the bib?
they
It's
have
called
like a bib. Yeah, your number has these little pieces on it that tracks you during the race. And I think it was actually started because during a race, somebody started the race. They actually left the track, got in a car, and drove to the finish line a little bit later.
Oh,
and cheated,
interesting.
basically.
Wow.
And then crossed the finish line. So the tracking point tracks you so that it knows you're crossing all of the mile, like each mile.
Oh,
It has a thing to know that you went through each
Why
post.
would you do that if you're going?
So this tracker was very cool, though. I didn't know. So the one I did before, it only showed how fast. It only showed like every 5 miles, basically, like how fast I was going. This one was like a.
It was down to.
It was like Life
Oh,
360.
I watched it. Like at the end, it was like
I could watch.
0.5. This is
That
how
was
much further
crazy.
he has to go, and then done.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what they had, so that was
I
pretty
had it-
cool.
I was flipping to it once in a while on the screens.
Yeah.
Up in the balcony, and yeah, it's like you zoomed in.
That's crazy.
You could see exactly where you
Yeah,
were.
so I guess it's just some sort of like tag that just shows you where
Well,
you
it's
are.
funny because when I was doing the thing, I said, "Oh, Johnny is running through Harlem. We
Yeah.
should pray for him," and everybody laughed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for
So,
being here and giving us that
yeah,
recount.
happy
Very
to be
cool.
here.
When you
Thanks
see
for
Johnny,
listening.
give him a high five for finishing the marathon.
All right.
All right. Oh, by the way, what's next? Next one.
What's funny was my family came out. They loved it. Like, oh, this is so cool. We're going to do this again next year. I was like, sure, but somebody else is going to have to run that. So we'll see. We'll
All right,
take some time.
We'll pray
and
about it.
We'll see where the Lord leads.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that was really awesome. Really great interview with Johnny.
Johnny just ran on out of here.
He did. He just left. That was not pre-recorded. That was just snap of a finger. But yeah, we really appreciate Johnny and what he does here at NBC, and he's just so skilled. So it's really cool to hear about his marathon experience. So as we move into the next portion of our show, I would like to tell you a little bit about Rejoice. Women of NBC, it is almost Christmas time, which means it is time for the Kim and Chrisana signature event. It is time to rejoice and have celebrate Christmas with the women's ministry. So Saturday, December 6th, from 9:15 a.m. to 11 a.m., they will have their Christmas celebration. I'm hearing about a potluck breakfast, so bring an amazing breakfast dish along with you. It's going to be a really great time. There's going to be worship. I think there might be some testimony time. Childcare is provided, so if you're not able to get childcare for that day, bring your kids with you. We will be able to provide that for you. But yeah, if you've never been to a women's event, this will be a great time to start December 6th. And if you have, we encourage you to bring a friend. Christmas is a really great time to bring people together, and I think Kim and Chrisana do a really good job at facilitating that. So rejoice, women of NBC, a Christmas celebration. Make sure you check that out on December 6th.
Rejoice.
Rejoice.
There you go. Their signature event, really.
That probably.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. So if you want to get one taste of the women's ministry, you got to come to Rejoice.
Maybe no. You know what? I take it back. It might have to be tea and testimony.
Okay.
That might
All
be
T, the other TNT.
The other TNT.
There you go.
Yes. All right. It is that time where we spend the most amount of time here at Behind the Pulpit. We are going to move into our sermon section. Pastor Bob, we got the opportunity of hearing you preach out of Isaiah chapter 40 yesterday, talking about comfort my people. In chapter 40, verse 1. Pastor Bob, would you offer us a 60-second flyover of your sermon, and we'll get into some of the behind-the-scenes work here, maybe a couple visuals, couple questions, and then we'll begin to wrap up our show.
Well, it was a delicious section of scripture that we bit into yesterday. We looked at Isaiah 40, did the lead in with Isaiah 39, which I've already commented on. But Isaiah 40 really starts after this coming catastrophe that is set up in Isaiah 39. It gets us into the exile and the people of God leaving their homeland, being taken from their homeland, going into Babylon. And I really do, and we can talk a little bit more about the author, but I do think Isaiah is writing this prophetically, looking toward the future when the people will be in exile, and he's giving them a good word. He's offering them comfort. And so we talked a lot about how we respond to catastrophe, and there was 4 truths in the book of in Isaiah chapter 40 that I think we really need to take heart. The first one was God will comfort his people. That's the first 11 verses. And then in the middle section, we learned, secondly, that God is the king of creation. God's going to call us by name. And then finally, and most famously, the last section talks about God providing certainty in the chaos. He's going to help us when we're weary. He's going to be the one who holds us in his hand. He's going to be the one who walks with us even when we're tired, and he'll lift us up on eagle's wings. So the main theme was that in order to prepare for a coming catastrophe, we have to wait or trust in the Lord. Are you trusting in the Lord this week? We can talk more about that, but that's the general outline and the gist of the message.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Since you mentioned it, why don't we jump right in? You kind of teased a little bit in the podcast yesterday, this idea that there's some speculation and some debate amongst scholars of who wrote. I think everyone pretty much agrees that Isaiah himself wrote Isaiah 1 through 39, but there is a little bit of speculation about who actually was it actually Isaiah that wrote chapter 40 verse chapter 42:66. And you gave your opinion yesterday, but you said you'd unpack it a little bit more on the podcast. So let's not keep people waiting. What are your thoughts
so waiting on
Deutero-Isaiah?
Yeah, and I hadn't really thought about this very much for a while since my seminary days, but when Dave and I did this training session with Tim Mackey last fall, some of the lead-in materials got into this topic. And there's some interesting thoughts on it, but it's been a topic that's been long discussed, long debated about whether there's one author, the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, or if there's multiple authors. So the summary is basically everybody agrees pretty much that Isaiah 1 to 39, it's got historical background, historical backing. Isaiah wrote those. But then when you get to chapter 40, there seems to be this shift. You have this scene in Isaiah 40, particularly the verse 11 verses, that seem a lot like Isaiah chapter 6, that throne room where, the seraphim are flying around and they're crying out, holy, 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 and God brings this coal to Isaiah's lips and he commissions him to go and speak for his people. But here, it looks like he's calling him to speak a word of comfort, to speak a word of goodness to his people, and then also a similar language. There's a voice crying out. There's a response. So is this a commission of a new author? Is it duplicating what happened in that Isaiah 6 passage, or is it a commission again for Isaiah the prophet and calling him to extend and speak to his people? And I tend to lean on the second part. Now, the main arguments for the multiple authors are the historical references. So when you read 1 to 39, there definitely is that background. Remember, Pastor Dave in the first week said you got to go read 1 Kings 15 to 22 and then the related portions of Chronicles. But then 40 to 66 doesn't have as much historical background. It looks very much like he's writing after the people of God are in exile. Waiting for the return. That's sort of the tone of 40 to 66. They're waiting for this Messiah to come. They're looking forward to this new Jerusalem that he talks about when you get into the 60s of Isaiah. Also, Cyrus of Persia is named in Isaiah 44, even though he lived 150 years in the future from when Isaiah was writing. Most people traditionally think that Isaiah was killed during the reign of Manasseh, one of the last really, really terrible, awful kings of Israel, that he was sawn in two. It was a really terrible end for the prophet. So obviously he wasn't there during the exile. There's also a change in tone. So again, Isaiah 1 to 39 is about judgment. It's a warning of judgment. But then Isaiah 40 to 66 focuses on comfort and restoration in the future. So you had the pre-exilic and the post-exilic Israel kind of focus here. And there's some differences in style and vocabulary. There's some variations in the Hebrew stuff. So that's the main reason people bring up the multiple authors. But The arguments for Isaiah's authorship and the unity of the book, I think are stronger. So, here's I'll just go through a couple. Number one, there's an ancient Jewish and Christian tradition that both the Hebrew Bible and the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the Masoretic text, they treat Isaiah as a single book with no author divisions. So those are Bibles that were written much closer to the actual time and events of this happening. And so I tend to think the closer you get back to the time that it was written, there's going to be some more accuracies. Also, Jesus and the New Testament authors quoted from both halves of Isaiah, and they attributed all to Isaiah the prophet. They don't say, oh, Isaiah wrote this, and Deutero-Isaiah wrote this, and Trito-Isaiah wrote this. It's one Isaiah. Also, I mentioned that there's some unified literary and theological themes. So one example is the use of the word holy. The Holy One of Israel came up again in Isaiah 40. That word is used throughout evenly the book of Isaiah. It wasn't something that was used at the beginning and then forgotten. It's a constant theme. There's a theme of judgment and sin and redemption, God's sovereignty over the nations. They appear throughout the book. There's some contrast, but not super stark ones. Also, if this was indeed a prophetic insight, that's a very core biblical concept. So Isaiah naming Cyrus 150 years in the future is consistent with a claim that he makes in chapter 46. God says, I make known the end from the beginning. So do we believe that God can see the future, predict the future, and reveal that to his prophet? I very much agree he can. And then the last thing I'll mention is just the manuscript evidence. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were a major discovery in the Qumran caves back in the day, they are dated before Christ, and they contain the entire book, the entire scroll of Isaiah as one continuous scroll, and there's no break between chapter 39 and chapter 40, which you would expect to see if you have multiple authors. So those are some of the technical reasons. I definitely lean towards the one author view. Other people might disagree, but I think that's the correct view. So there you go.
Quick follow-up question to that.
Yep.
Does that change at all? Okay, hold on. Does whether Isaiah was written all by Isaiah or Deutero-Isaiah and Isaiah change? Would that change at all how we should be reading it or looking at it?
I mean, I don't think so. Maybe in some people's minds it might be weird. But the idea would be that there's other authors that are writing later on in the voice of Isaiah, like they are Isaiah, if you're taking the multiple author view. But the church did affirm Isaiah as the word of God at the councils and the early councils. So it has been affirmed as the authoritative word of God.
Great.
We can debate about the author thing, but I don't think it changes how you would read it.
Great.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two places that I think would be cool for us to kind of park the bus a little bit here today. The first one, you talked a little bit about idolatry, and I know there's some people who really liked this visual that you put up. So I'll put up on the screen here. For those of you who are listening online, it is the cow, idolatry cow that Pastor Bob.
That's why you should subscribe on YouTube so you can see the visuals.
Yes, but if you are not, if you're listening online, it is a cow, and it's normally where it's sectioned off as pieces of meat that you would get from the butcher. There's multiple sections with different modern day idols. So social media, ego, me, approval, pride, sex, drugs, career, possessions, control, overindulgence are some of the things that we were seeing on this cow. And you talked in your sermon a lot yesterday about idols that we were seeing in the time of Isaiah and how these idols were physical. You showed when you went to the Penn Museum the artifacts that you showed on the podcast last week, and you made mention that today, for most people, our idols aren't like physical statues. They're actually they're more nuanced than that. So how would you help people to kind of identify what those are, if not always just like physical? If the idols are not like physical things that you're worshiping.
Yeah, well, they could be physical things you're worshiping. So if you go like over the the summer before last, we did a mission trip with Amun Sharon, one of our world partners, and he took us down to a Hindu temple, and they do have like idols. Literally, I remember having a conversation with the guy down there about, we believe in this little statue is containing the spirit of a specific god, and they're worshiping and making sacrifices to these idols. But when we were talking about kind of secular, modern, Western societies, they're not creating these overt totem poles that they're worshiping, like the Baal images or the Asherah images. Although those were all over ancient Israel, there was all this intermixture, and that's why God told Israel to go in and take them down. And then you hear about these Israelite kings that are putting the high places back up, and then they're taking them down. If you put them back up, you're walking away from God. You take them down. The good kings usually did that. But in our modern day, yes, I think there's a lot of those things you saw on the cow are prevalent. So and it's deceptive, because some of the things that become idols are good things that, as Tim Keller says, they become ultimate things. So you don't think that your education could be an idol, but it could, because if it takes an ultimate controlling position in your life, that can very much become an idol. The thing that you focus your attention and the thing you glorify the most, the thing that will make you weep if you lose it. I think that's how Keller describes it in Counterfeit Gods. He says if it's anything that if you were to lose it, you would think your life is not worth living. So even your family is a good thing, but family, you can have an idolatrous relationship with your family, with your job, with romance. Some folks that go from person to person, they date, or they're constantly waiting to look and see if they have a marriage partner, and that becomes like the central focus of your life and what you're about, and what drives you. That can become an idol. Money, but also money is a clue into what it is that you're pursuing. Fame, fortune, all of that. So did that answer your question, or do you want me to go on?
No, yeah, that absolutely answered my question. This is something that comes up in youth ministry a lot as well. I'm one of the leaders at our youth group here under Johnny, and this is something that I think we see a lot with our teens. This idea, like these unrecognized idols, and I think a lot of times, like it's things like it's school and it's sports and. It's our what do we look like? How are we being perceived by other people? We see a lot, and it starts to like some of these are good things. Like I think playing a sport is a good thing. I think your education and your grades are good things. But sometimes these things they'll start to become, like you said, ultimate things, and these things are taking you away from your time with God and your relationship with God, and ultimately weakening it. And it's important.
But they're not put in their proper place, right? They become something that you care about more than God, or do you lose your identity if you don't have it?
Yeah. Ultimately, these things kind of take over, and it's really important to see those things. I know something that I think we see a lot in today's society, and I can speak to this from myself from the past. Is I think, especially amongst some young men, is I think their sports teams kind of become idols. I hear about people, and this used to be me. I hear about see people that just like if their sports team loses, like if you're a Giants fan and the Giants lose and that ruins your entire Sunday, I think that might be an issue. That might be something that,
or your entire month,
or right? Yes, or your entire month. Like if you're still like, if the fact that the Yankees didn't win the World Series this year is still something that is causing you mental health issues, that might be something that needs to be looked at. But there's other things like that too. That's just something that I have seen personally.
Yeah, and in Isaiah 40, it's really clever what he does, because when he talks about the idol, and where is it? It's in verse 12. Verse 18. He talks, to whom then will you liken God, or what likeness compare to him? An idol, right? So, and then I mentioned that the Hebrew word for God is El, which is also the same name for the high god in the Canaanite pantheon. But when God, the God of the Hebrews, God of Israel, is mentioned in the Old Testament, the word that's always used is Elohim. So what he's doing there is he's kind of pointing out, like, God is not like El. He controls El. El is not. He's not on the same level as the true God. I was watching the last episode of the House of David last night, and there's an interesting scene where David's going off to battle to win, to defeat the Philistines and win the hand of Michal to marry her, and bring back a bride price for Saul. And he's talking with his friend Uriah, who, of course, comes up later on in the story of David and Bathsheba. But Uriah is a Hittite. He spent time in Egypt, where all these other gods were. And then David asks him, well, why did you come to Israel? What do you like it? Why'd you stay here? And he goes, well, your God is real. He's not made of stone like our God's over here. And that's really the theme that comes up over and over and over again, especially in the Old Testament. And I think it has a lot of application for our lives. We're constantly going after these gods that are carved in our images, that are made of stone and wood or metal nowadays, I suppose. But our God is real, and our God is true, and he has power over all things. And that's the point of the middle section of Isaiah 40.
Amen. One other thing that I wanted to cover with you, if you don't mind, is you kind of talked a little bit about, we used the great illustration of the hurricane, and how we have hurricanes in our lives. But there's also the illustration of the self-inflicted storm, right? The things that we kind of do to ourselves, and the situations that we put ourselves in that are in our control. Like, we could have done something to avoid the situation we're in, or we've done something to ourselves that has put us in that situation. And I think a lot of times when we think about that, it's kind of just like, it's kind of weird to think about. Just like I put myself here, like I kind of deserve what I'm getting. And I feel like that, like, we almost causes us to look at God's grace in those situations differently. It kind of feels weird, like, even to talk about those things. There's this view like, oh, this person did this to himself, he deserves it, and we view that kind of grace differently. I was just wondering if you had any more things that you wanted to speak into that kind of self-inflicted storm idea.
No, I think it was a good point that was brought up when we were doing the run-through and going through it, a point to add, which I did. But we do make choices in life, and sometimes we get ourselves into predicaments, let's put it that way, because of the choices that we make. And in many ways, we could make choices that go against what we know is right. So, like with my kids, my kids like to do things. There's certain things that they like to rebel against. I'll say, don't do that, and they'll say no. And then usually they get punished, but they'll still do it later on. Like my daughter likes to do, she's really into gymnastics. She likes to go and do cartwheels all over the house. And multiple times we tell her, don't do the cartwheel. And yet she'll bump into one of her siblings, or she'll bump her head, or she'll hit her foot. And then she comes over crying. And that's a self-inflicted mistake, hurricane, if you want to call it that, a little hurricane. But in those moments, she recognizes her mistake and wants to come to her parent, her father, and receive grace and a hug. And that's, I think, to your point, we can make bigger decisions, bigger hurricanes, because we, made a bad decision with our money, or a bad decision in a relationship. Those things can be self-inflicted because we did stuff that we knew we weren't supposed to do, but yet God is still there to offer us grace. And in those moments, I think the grace is even sweeter when we realize, hey, I know I shouldn't have done that, and yet I still did. And yet God still loves me.
Yeah. So how should we approach those situations in prayer? I think I would say probably more than likely the prayer that we are praying for a storm in our life that is out of our control. The prayer that we pray to God for a storm that we started ourselves, I think that's a different prayer. So how should we approach those situations?
Yeah, obviously a hurricane we didn't have any control over, and disaster can strike there. But when we did something that was not honoring to God or not obedient, I think the first thing that should be prayed is confession, repentance, turning back to God. That's in a lot of ways what God is calling Israel to do. He uses the name, O Jacob, O Israel, because he's speaking tenderly to them. And it's in verse 27, right? Yeah, 40:27. God asks, "My way is hidden from the Lord. My way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God." So he's saying, why do you say those things? Why do you ask that? And what's interesting about his question there is that the reason Israel is in exile, the reason Israel is in the place that they are in, is because they have chosen to turn their back on God, but yet God doesn't turn his back on them. So in that moment, the response it is repentance. It's turn back to God, admit you're wrong, turn back to him, and trust in him. And this happens over and over again. If you look at the book of Judges, So many times Israel gets in a predicament, they're getting conquered, they cry out to their God, and God intervenes, and yet after a certain period of time, they forget, they turn away from him again, and yet they call it the judge's cycle. The same thing keeps happening over and over again. And that can happen in our lives too. But our prayer is to say, Lord, I made a mistake, forgive me, I repent of this, I need to trust in you and not these other things. Whereas I think if you have a hurricane that's outside your control, you're pleading with God for mercy and intervention in a different way.
Yeah. That's good. So I guess to put a bow on that, if there's anyone listening or watching this show today who is in the midst of a self-inflicted storm, what would you say to that person listening under the sound of your voice today?
Under the sound of my voice, yes. Well, I would say that God's grace runs deep. It runs deep, and His call is to turn to Him and trust Him again. That's what the idea of waiting for the Lord means. The Hebrew word for wait is to trust. So those who trust in the Lord shall renew their strength. Don't think that He's forgotten you. He's not. He is right there, and He's calling to you today to put your faith and your trust in Him, and He will intervene. Maybe not in the way that you think He should, but He will. He will hear your prayer when you do that genuinely and honestly.
Amen. That's awesome. Is there anything else from your sermon that you'd like to touch on before we move on here?
I don't think so. We covered that marathon pretty good, man. So let's just leave it at that.
All right.
Dave, though, I will say, is going to do. He's going to tackle a big chunk next week. He's going to do 41 to 48, which is called The Trial of the False Gods, which is going to pick up more and more on this idolatry theme. So if you're longing for more teaching on idolatry, show up this coming week, and Pastor Dave is going to scratch where you itch.
Can't wait to be scratched. All right. So as we move into...
Speaking of Dave.
Speaking of Dave, as we move into the final part of our show today, just want to give you all of our amazing shuttle riders out there. We just want a quick announcement for you. Those pesky teenagers will be taking the buses, the vans to their fall retreat this weekend. I will be driving one of them. Sorry. Larry gave me permission. So we can, if you ride the shuttle, we would ask that we would not ask. There won't be a shuttle for you. So are people still able to like park over there and walk? I know that's something that some people do.
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I don't see why not. You could park and you could walk.
So I would assume we still have the spots.
You want to get your steps in?
If you're one of the shuttle, if you're one who uses the shuttle lot for your and walk over, you can still do that. I know some people do that, but if you typically ride the shuttle, maybe get here a little early to make sure you have a spot, because there will be no shuttle this week. It'll be back next week. All right, it is time for the Theology Sprint. One of our favorite segments here, where we give the pastors a tough question and see if they can answer it within 60 seconds. So normally it is Noah Graves who performs and asks this question. That will be our Theology Sprint question. But he is not here. And so then it would normally be me, but I am hosting the show. So I thought it would be fun if our very own Pastor Dave, who's not here on the show today, got a little bit of a spotlight. And so I asked him to ask a theology question for Pastor Bob today.
Oh, I have to answer it? I thought he was answering it.
Oh, no, he's asking the question.
Okay.
So here is Pastor Dave. See if I can get this to work.
Hey guys, glad to be with you today for today's Theology Sprint. I've thought long and hard about this, and I'm going to try my best to stump you on this one. This question is about public theology. So here it goes. Is the church supposed to be focused on evangelism and sharing the spiritual message of the gospel, or should the church focus on social justice and caring for the poor and the marginalized in our society? There you go.
There's our Theology Sprint.
A well thought out question there from Pastor Dave.
Thank you, Pastor Dave, if you're watching.
Woke up at 12 o'clock just to ask that question. Normally he's up super early. Well, I would say, and this is actually in our core values for Millington Baptist Church, that the church should be focused on both gospel proclamation and gospel demonstration. So the gospel proclamation is the very clear call of the gospel for you to repent of your sins, to turn from your wicked ways, and to give your life to Jesus Christ and to trust in him as your Savior, to be regenerated, to become a new person, a new creation, as Paul tells us. Now, the outworking of your salvation is, as James talked about, faith without works is dead. I do think there's an element where, as you read through Isaiah, we are called to do justice. We can debate about the actual meaning of what social justice is, but when we talk about biblical justice, there is an element of us working in the world to help people and to make things right. And until God comes back, I think we're called to bring the kingdom of God to earth by bringing justice, mercy, the common good to the people that are around us. Seek the welfare of the city, Jeremiah tells us. And so I think it's a both and. There's both proclamation and there's demonstration, and the church should seek to live out both.
I agree.
There you go.
There it is. Thank you for that.
I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you, Pastor Dave, for asking the question. Well, we are at the end of our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a really great interview. We talked about a lot of good stuff. I surely am ready to get back behind the producer chair next week. This is definitely an area where I would leave for Pastor Dave week to week. But
the hot seat, huh?
I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a change up. Pastor Dave, get well soon.
Switcheroo, right?
A little bit of a
Clayton
switcheroo.
Kershaw curveball, right?
Yes,
there.
it was one of the better curveballs in baseball history. Enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure you get out to the polls tomorrow, and we will see you next week on Behind the Pulpit.